she's hot.
It's Sunday night, and this is the Conjugal Visit on KGFRocks.com.
Yeah, it's a Conjugal Visit right here on KGFRocks.com. Welcome to the Conjugal Visit, and myself and Guido. Guido, you out there?
No, I left.
You're being really quiet, dude.
It's called microphone mute, dude.
Microphone mute. Yeah, you are there.
Sometimes I wish I had a earphone mute for you.
Really? Is my voice that bad?
Yeah, it's kind of like nails on the chalkboard sometimes.
Oh, it is not. You lie like a rug.
Well, see, people listening, they're like, he's lying. But we have this filter that our voices go through, and then it enhances it. And we have to, free rides, we have to like fuck around with for like a half an hour before we can get them sounding proper. Like me, I'm natural.
I sound like this all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, we had 2 deaths over the weekend, dude. Hugh Hefner passed away. Mm-hmm. He was 91, and Monty Hall died.
Right. I'm actually more sad about Monty Hall.
Yeah, well, I'm not even sad. I mean, them fuckers.
Well, it's not sad, but
life.
like I didn't know who Hugh Hefner was in my youth, but I knew who Monty Hall was since I was a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched Monty Hall when I was growing up.
Well, you didn't get to know Hugh Hefner. You were a little older kid or a teen or whatever. I knew Monty Hall was kid friendly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Hugh Hefner was an icon. I mean, the sexual revolution is what he was all about. Hi, MJ.
Hi, you guys.
What's up, hon?
Sup, dog?
Sup, yo?
Yo, dog. What are you up to, girl? How you feeling?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, we were just talking about the passing away of Monty Hall, who passed away at age 96 yesterday. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then, of course, Hugh Hefner, the sexual revolution man, he passed away a couple of days ago. I guess it was, Friday? He passed away.
Do you want to know a truth? Monty Hall died with more money than Hugh Hefner.
Oh.
Probably.
Because Hugh lost a lot of his net worth. Who's echoing?
Yeah, there's a lot of reverb.
A lot of reverb? I don't know. I'm doing pretty good. I'm hearing everything.
I hear it on the other end.
On the other end? Yeah.
I hear it on Guido's end on my end.
It's not me. I know it's not me. You guys are all rocking and rolling to me. Sound good to me. I don't hear nothing echoing here.
I do.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. I can hear my voice.
I don't know how to fix it.
I think it's MJ's because it wasn't there before.
Okay, let me hang up.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Hello.
Yeah, that's a little better.
That's better.
Yeah.
I didn't get an echo. I wasn't having it. We're not having issues tonight, folks.
It's because you can barely hear as it is.
I got this incessant ringing in my ears. It's really killing me, man.
Are you still there, MJ?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Okay. Does it sound better?
No.
We'll deal with it.
Well, we'll have to deal with it.
Well, it's just an echo.
It's just an echo. Yeah. Well, I've got nothing here. Everything here is saying everything is working optimally.
Well, what's weird is it's me and Guido doing it, and you're not.
Right.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can.
That's because he's fucking with us, MJ.
I think he is.
I'm not fucking with you. I swear to God.
You are.
How does that sound? Is that better?
That got worse.
It's worse?
It sounds like we're shouting in a hello, hello. Oh, that sucked. So, so, so how is California these days?
It's hot still.
Is it?
It's so hot.
It just got cold in New York, believe it or not. We had like almost 90-degree days last week.
Yeah, the weather's weird.
It is. It's the government fucking with the cloud.
They got a machine up in the sky now. You hear that? They got a machine that controls our weather.
It's called HARP.
Yeah, there's a movie about that, and I'd be tempted to go see that movie. It's all about how this machine is up in the sky changing the weather and making the weather.
They see the clouds is what they do, and they make the clouds do things they're not supposed to do. So ever since they started doing this, or since they have record dates that they've been doing this, the weather has been strange. Record hurricanes and tornadoes and rainstorms, or lack of rainstorms, like in California.
Well, we're in a drought right now. We haven't had rain in over a month. Any significant rain. We haven't had any significant rain in over a month here in St. Louis. And our temperatures have been really weird. For the month of August, our average temperature was 80 degrees.
I know, that's crazy.
I don't know, with all the hurricanes and everything, it's like Mother Nature saying fuck you to the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mother Nature's been a bitch all along. She's never been a nice thing. Mother Nature's never been nice. And the thing is, let me try this theory on you. The weather is only worse because we can predict it now. Before, we had these storms and these horrendous hurricanes and all this stuff, and we couldn't forecast it. Now we can. Now we know what's coming. And
but they don't always know what's coming. I mean, they sometimes think it's coming and it doesn't, or they say, it's going to be okay, and then it hits.
And now, and the population used to be so much lower. So fewer people were affected back in the day.
Well, people weren't such sissies back then either.
No, they weren't sissies, that's for sure. And
they bucked up and took it,
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, there weren't that many people. So when a storm would blow through like that, it would only affect 4,000 or 5,000 people. Now that same area has 4 million people in it. So there are bound to be more casualties, like in Houston. What was that great hurricane that hit way back in the day, man? It was like back in the early 1900s. There was a hurricane that hit Houston and wiped out half of the fucking the shore and all that stuff. And yet,
what grade were you in?
I wasn't born yet, but this hurricane seemed to be really nasty. So. But it didn't kill nearly many people. If that same storm hit today, it would probably kill about 2,000 or 3,000 people.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's the same thing like here too in New York, where we get the snowstorms and that there's still people that die in them, but not like other storms. So I would take the snowstorm over anything. I swear to God, I would.
I'd take
a blizzard over a hurricane any day.
Any day.
Or a tornado.
Because, a blizzard, I don't know. A blizzard, it would depend on how high the winds got.
Yeah, but you stay in the fucking house.
Well, if the roof gets tore off, that's kind of moot.
It's not going to be. I don't even. Yeah, but I don't think that. I've never seen. I've been through blizzards many times in Buffalo, and I've never seen any wind damage that bad to where it. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but where I seen it, in mass amounts of it. So the most things that happen is stupid people drive when they say not to, and then they get stranded and have to abandon their cars. That's the biggest problem we have.
Right. Well, that makes sense. I'm still thinking about what we were talking about before we came on the air, on how Muslim your neighborhood is.
Yeah.
And I still think you should buy a pig and put him out in front of the house. On a nice warm. Yeah, buy a pig and
For
put
what?
a pig. Well, the Muslims, they don't like pig. See,
Why are you gonna be mean to a Muslim?
I don't know.
No, he's not being mean to his Muslim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's kind of racist. That's kind of racist.
well, the guy is an asshole. The guy that lives across the street.
He is an asshole.
He told Guido to fuck off. Okay, fuck you,
okay.
he said to him. But of course, Guido on 4th of July played loud, patriotic music out loud and
real loud.
Yeah, and he played music like Christian music, "Onward, Christian Soldier," and he played all that kind of stuff on the 4th of July, and the guy across the street called the cops on him. The cops said, "What do you want me to do?" He's playing patriotic music, and I told him, I said, well, buy a pig. And when he says, why did you put a pig out here? Why do you have a pig here? I said, well, if I put a goat out here, you'd be over here fucking it. So I figured a pig would be safer.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I mean, you're so gonna get fired right now.
I know.
It's horrible.
The fines are coming in as we speak.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying.
I do not agree with his statements. I love all people.
I mean, if the guy's going to be a jerk, I mean, I'm just saying, why not just be a jerk back?
I know he sounds like a jerk, but I would have just started off with that, with the neighbor's a jerk and an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, not all Muslims are bad people.
No, I'm not saying that, but the guy across the street from him is an asshole.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets what he gets.
He's an asshole. Harp on it because he's a Muslim. He's not a good Muslim, because a good Muslim wouldn't be an asshole.
Well,
I haven't met too many of them in this part of town, so we'll carry on with that. Yeah. Anyways, what do you think about the national anthem today? I think they handled it better in the NFL.
I think it's bullshit, and I think that everyone needs to just stop mixing politics and sports together.
I agree. I agree with you.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. I could not agree with you anymore.
I don't even know why they are doing it. Like, it's so stupid to me.
Yeah, and
I mean, I'm sorry, but everyone has problems, and everyone gets shit on for their nationality or where they live or how much money they make. Like, everyone has problems. Like, get over it.
Just get over it. Yeah. I mean, think about this for a minute. The football players, some of them will go to these cancer centers and go to these hospitals to visit the kids in the hospital. Well, how come they're not going to the inner city schools? How come they're not visiting the football team at the high school in these inner cities? How come they're not going into the inner cities and going to the homeless shelters and helping the people in the homeless shelter and visiting down there and visiting the kids on the street that are playing sandlot football? And how come they're not there? Are they afraid?
They should be there.
I think they're afraid. So they'll go to the hospital, but they won't go down and visit the kids in the street. And they won't go visit the kids in the high schools and the grade schools and say, look, this is important to you. This is your future. This is where you can be one day. That's what I look for. That's what I want from my football stars. That's the way it used to be. That's the way. When I was a kid, man, I met.
It was though. When you were a kid, it was different. Nowadays, there's commercials out there with the sports stars saying, "Don't idolize me,"
dude.
Because they want you to idolize like scholars and stuff now.
Roman Gabriel came to my school. I met Roman Gabriel when I was a kid. He came and watched us play YA Tittle football. I mean, he was there. I mean, that's where they need to be. This is where they need to be, not the hospitals and the charity hospitals and St. Joseph's Hospital, whatever it is. That's fine. It's all good.
I think they should go to the hospital. I think they should go to the hospital, but they should also go to schools too.
They go to the schools in the inner cities.
Anywhere that they can help children be better people.
Here's what I think. I don't care what they do with their money. I don't care what they do with their free time. Just like same with the music. I don't care what you do with your money or whatever. Stop fucking politicking your job.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think they should mix it in football.
Same with music. I don't want to go see a band like Bruce Springsteen and hear about how much he hates fucking Donald Trump. Fuck you.
that would be annoying to me.
I don't care if you hate Donald Trump. I want to hear you sing. Same with the football players and hockey, whoever. Do your job and leave the politics to the politicians.
Yeah, I agree. Football sucks. It's not fun anymore. And they've made it so political, and everyone just has like an opinion about it.
I mean, because there's a difference.
And you know what's crazy is like there's some serious shit going on in the world right now, and that's all anyone's talking about. Like, who gives a fuck?
It's all smoke and mirrors to hide what's really going on in the world, MJ.
You've got over 550 people murdered in the streets of Chicago. You've got 397 people murdered in Washington, D.C., our nation's fucking capital. And it's black-on-black crime. 90% of the victims in Chicago are killed by the same race. When's that going to stop? When are they going to step in on that? Let's take a knee for them.
Well,
and how many kids aren't coming home?
Well, because it's just because of the inner cities need the help. And now Donald Trump said he was going to make inner cities one of his priorities. I haven't seen him do anything yet, but he hasn't
done shit. He doesn't know how to help anybody.
He's got time, and he's got time. See, here's the thing, though, MJ, is if you are only watching the regular news, then you really don't know what he's doing because they're not reporting all the thing that he's doing. Like they're saying he didn't help in Haiti or in Puerto Rico. He sent over so much shit over there for aid, and the news media won't even say nothing about it. He sent 6 Navy military hospitals over there, 6 full hospitals over there with fully staffed doctors, everything. All this stuff he sent. And nobody talks about it because they don't want him to look good. So if you watch the mainstream media, you don't know what he's doing.
They want him to look bad. And the thing is he
looks pretty bad.
Well, Puerto Rico looks pretty bad, but when you get hit by a Cat 5 hurricane,
you know what, though?
How did you expect us to respond? We couldn't even stage for that. If we would have staged...
It wasn't even so much what the media's done to him. It's what he does to himself with his tweets. Do you read
he's a jackass with that. I agree.
Oh, yeah. No. But he's mellowed out a lot.
But he is. And
he's mellowed out.
That's to me, so far as a president, that's his biggest downfall. But he has not done any worse in his first 100 days than Barack Obama's done in his 100 days.
I think they're just as bad. They're both just as bad.
Right.
I think all the presidents have sucked bad.
But that's the point, though, is everybody's saying he's not fit to be a president or whatever, but he hasn't done anything worse than any of these politicians, as you'll call them, have done.
Yeah, no, everyone sucks.
Right. So
it's hard to run America, I think. But
I think he made his point.
I just wish he had a publicist and someone would just yank his Twitter from him.
I wish so, too, but it's never going to happen because he's a man that's
he loves it.
To say, and he likes to make himself look like a buffoon.
No, but he likes to say what's on his mind. That's what he likes.
Whatever he's thinking, he says what's on his mind. I think it's kind of refreshing. And instead of telling me lies, he's telling me how it is. And I think that a lot of his tweets are unnecessary. But I do still think that it's kind of cool that the President of the United States reaches out to the entire country on social media and says, hey, this is what I think. What do you think? And then he waits for the response. Then he gets a response. And if the only people who bitch about his tweet are Democrats, then he says, I must have been fucking right.
Well, the thing of it is, he's the first president in history that's given his honest opinion instead of something that somebody wrote for him.
Yep.
Okay, because all the presidents sounded good because they had professional scriptwriters writing what they say.
But I think that's his problem is that he should actually use those because he just sounds like an idiot half the time.
I love it.
That whole speech about Puerto Rico and how it's an island and it's surrounded by water and lots of water and that was horrible.
Well, now listen, what he was explaining. Wait. Let me say something here. What he was explaining was there was no way for us to prep for that storm like they did in Florida and in Texas. All that shit that was in Florida and Texas was waiting for the storm to go through. And once the storm went through, everything attacked and went after the problems, fixed the problems right away. And everybody praised him for that.
So why can't we help them now, though?
Well, the problem is you couldn't prep for that because there's no place to put that shit. There's no place to put it. If he would have put all that shit on the island before that storm hit, it would have been wiped out too. So you have to think that, and everybody seems to think it's a hop, skip, and a jump to Puerto Rico. It's a 6.5 hour flight from Florida. So it's not that close.
But we should help them, though, because they are part of the United States. We should
Well,
help
yeah,
them.
absolutely, and he has done that. I mean, nobody has seen the bill yet, but we're talking in the billions of dollars. They've sent 6 hospital ships. They sent an aircraft carrier, which can produce enough water to feed an entire city for 100 days.
They sent. Wait a minute.
If that's all that happened, why are they saying that they have no water?
They're in the process of it all done. He just sent 3 nuclear submarines over there that generate enough power to give enough everybody in Puerto Rico power. And now they're starting to do all the things.
But MJ, here's another point. Here's one more point. The government in Puerto Rico is so crooked. This is why they still want their independence. And they don't want to become a state. Crooked. But this government in particular, and they ran the electrical grid on the island down to nothing. They stole the money. People were paying their bills and the money was going into people's pockets instead of making improvements on the grid. So it's not all, there's 2 sides to every story. I mean, the place was already run down before the storms hit. And when you have a problem, when you have a Category 5 hurricane hit that island, there's going to be some damage. And it's hard to rectify, but a lot of those people knew that friggin' storm was coming. A lot of those people knew it was coming and either should have got off the fucking island and flew out, or they should have bought enough stuff to keep them preserved for days. And that's where it is. They weren't prepared. The people weren't prepared like they were in Texas. I don't think anybody's
prepared for something like that.
Oh, yeah. The people in Texas were pretty prepared.
You want.
Yeah.
I'm prepared for the zombie apocalypse.
They're still going to have issues. They're still going to have problems. And I hope that everyone can be helped no matter where you live. That's scary.
And they are being helped, MJ. Trust me. They're being helped. A lot of people just, they didn't have enough drivers to drive the food.
No, they didn't.
They didn't have enough people. They weren't. The mayor wasn't prepared, and the governor was not prepared, and they should have been. They should have been prepared. They knew this was coming.
You know what, though? No, I don't think anyone ever prepared. I mean, look at Katrina. Those people definitely weren't prepared.
No, they weren't prepared because the governor and the mayor got in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, those buses sat. 2,000 buses sat.
People don't learn. That's still fucked up.
Yeah, well, everybody wants to blame everybody else. It's a culmination of people who fuck up. It doesn't take one guy to fuck up the whole thing. It's not just one guy that fucks up the thing. It's the whole fucking process that fucks things up and gets in the way. It's bureaucracy. It's paperwork. It's requests being denied and then requests being okayed. And then you got to go up the chain of command, blah, 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 blah. Well, he settled all that. He sent a 4-star general down there and said, take control of that fucking mess down there.
Right.
And that's what
he did. What about Trump talking shit to Kim Jong?
Fuck him. Let him talk shit to him. He should talk shit to that asshole.
To Kim Jong and threatening to bomb him and all that.
We should bomb him.
We should. I couldn't care less.
You're not scared?
No, I'm not.
Scared
you know why?
Scared of what? Scared of what?
Scared of what?
He's got like
World War III.
How did it be World War III?
Everything gets involved, and then everyone's been bombing each other.
No, he can't even put a warhead on a missile yet.
They would be gone within 3 days. Wiped out. Wipe the fuck off the map.
I'm telling you right now, the Chinese won't let it happen, MJ. The Chinese will not let it happen. They will get him. They're on the process of getting rid of that little motherfucker as it is. They are.
He should keep talking shit about that family.
Yeah, I hope he keeps running his mouth. Yeah, he's the redheaded stepchild of China. He is China's redheaded stepchild, and they're fixing to beat the shit out of him. He's a nasty son of a bitch. He killed his own brother.
Right, that's why he kind of scares me. Like, you don't think...
Oh, no, he's a psycho. He's a psycho, but the Chinese won't let it happen.
Anybody that's that totalitarian, like Hitler, won't last, because then the whole world's like, no, fuck you. We're going to kill you.
Sooner or later, he's toast. He's toast. And there's these guys on the North Korean border with China, and there's about 280,000 Red Chinese troops on the border ready. They've already set up the refugee camps in China. They're all set up and ready to go so that when the flow of people starts coming out of fucking North Korea, they're going to have a place for them to be. It's all set up. It's all set up. It's ready to go. So, and trust me, the Red Chinese won't let us go to war with North Korea. They would rather see a free Korean peninsula than to see North Korea go to war with the United States.
Yeah,
because that puts us right on the fucking border. Right. That puts us right on the Red Chinese border, and they're not having that, MJ.
I mean, because we're already occupied in South Korea.
Yeah,
so
they don't want us on their
North
border.
Korea.
Because we'll go all the way to the Yalu River, and they're not going to do that.
MJ, we have just as many soldiers in South Korea as they do in North Korea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're like, we don't even need to send nobody over there. Just go over the border.
No. It's on. I mean, it would take 9 days. They already estimated it would take 9 days, and we'd have troops in Pyongyang, right there in the capital of North Korea. And the Red Chinese are not going to allow that to happen. They're just going to, no, that ain't happening. They will invade first. And he's on such good terms with the Chinese president. I mean, I know you've heard that now, that how friendly he is with this Red. This guy here is thinking. This guy's thinking dollars. He's not thinking about that little jerk in fucking North Korea. He doesn't care less. He cares about the money. He wants the money to keep flowing. If he sides with the
U.S., or I mean, if he sides with the North Koreans, goodbye China. Yeah, with all the money that we give them, it's gone.
We owe them so much money. What would happen if we stopped paying them back? What if we just said, you know what, fuck you, see ya. Oh yeah, and by the way, you're buying your oil from Iran, and not us. Yeah. That would hurt. That would hurt. Yeah. They're not going to let that happen, MJ.
So, MJ, the world revolves around money. Even if the North Korean leader was right about everything he says, China makes money off the U.S., and they're not going to let the U.S. get attacked by somebody.
No fucking way.
That's true. We don't know how much money they would back us.
It's too expensive. It's too
you're
expensive.
Right. You're right. I didn't think about that.
Think about that. That's why he's made friends with the Red Chinese president. And that's why he sat him down, and the night he had dinner with him, do you know what Trump did? He bombed Syria. He's sitting there having dessert with the Chinese president while he's bombing Syria with cruise missiles. And the Chinese fucking eyebrows went up and said, holy fuck, this guy's a maniac. And that was it. That was pretty much it.
Also, the U.S. has Japan on their site too, which is right there.
Yeah, I mean, they're fixing to change their constitution back to the way it used to be. Right. They're going to have an army. They're going to say, we need to protect ourselves. We're going to change the constitution because their constitution keeps them from having an offensive army. They don't have an offensive navy. They don't have an air force.
That's because
anything in Japan. The World War II.
You know who drafted that constitution?
Yeah, MacArthur.
MacArthur and fucking Kissinger, or not Kissinger, the English dude.
What's his name? From England, you mean?
Yeah. What was the prime minister?
Churchill.
Yeah, Churchill and MacArthur wrote that up.
Right. They wrote that they will never have an offensive army or military again. And so the Japanese don't have the military that the Chinese do and that the United States has.
But they still have one thing that we can utilize, and that's manpower.
Yeah. They got plenty of manpower, I'll tell you that.
They got plenty of manpower that we can arm to go to World War III if we had to. And you know what? It'll never get to that status because too many people rely on the United States for something.
Yep.
So the only people that are against us are the people that we don't help, being Cuba, being Syria, being North Korea, all these dictator places that we don't help because you're a nation of dictators. We don't help you.
Right.
You want to help become a democracy. Join the UN.
Come on. Let's come bring it on in, man. We're here. We'll welcome you. Why do you think he never came to the United States to talk at the UN? He's scared. He's fucking scared.
He'll be able to go back.
He's scared they're going to lock his ass up for murder. They want to try him. He's going to be tried for war crimes. He's going to crimes against humanity. One day you will see that little cocksucker dangling from a rope.
You know what's going to happen? What's going to happen is just to be like Hussein. We're going to get enough of your shit, of your bullying tactics, and we're coming to get you. And
pretty simple.
The United States can infiltrate any country at any time and take anybody they want. Okay, they showed it to you with Hussein. They showed it to you with Osama bin Laden. We can do it anytime we want. So he's the one that should be scared.
Right. That's
because we have the best soldiers, military on the planet. Not just because I was one of them, but because it's the truth.
Yep. That's a fact. Well, listen, we've got to talk about our guest coming up because we're going past time. We need to get him on the phone here very shortly. And we are going to be talking with Scott Abney, who is actually, for another better word, Angus, and he plays Angus, and he plays lead guitar for AZDZ, which is a tribute band, and they're very good. I've seen them a few times, but they're very good at what they do, and we're going to play a tune. We're going to do, I think what we'll do, we'll go ahead and open it up with Thunderstruck, and we'll be bringing Scott back in with us here in about, I don't know, I guess the song is about 5 minutes long, so hang in there. This is KGFRocks.com and the Conjugal Visit. We'll be right back. Yeah, Thunderstruck. And we have on the phone with us right now, Scott Abney. Angus, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Outstanding, outstanding. Welcome to the show. Glad you could join us tonight.
Thank you.
And I'm understanding you guys are driving back from a gig in Tennessee?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Excellent. We get all kinds, don't we, Guido?
We do. And you were you playing with AZDZ? Were you playing with? Or do you?
Yeah, it's one of the AC/DC tributes that I play in. And the name of that one is called Big Gun, and they do this show annually at a place called The Shed in Maryville, Tennessee, and we do it like the season opener and the season finale, so it's a really good gig. It's right there at a Harley dealership.
Oh, excellent.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Mountain Harley Davidson. Yeah, very cool.
Rocky, yeah.
Tennessee, like fans are like amazing. You go to anything in Tennessee, they enjoy it.
I love music.
Yes, they do. They love it out there.
Yeah, it's a great
and that's what people, a common misconception is it's just country music out there. There's a lot of it, but there's also rock all over Tennessee.
Oh, yeah, you see it everywhere out there, you know.
Yeah, well, anything that has anything to do with being a rebel, I guess. You know.
Sure. They love it all.
They love it all, right? Yeah. So if you're going to be, that's the place to be. You know, if you're going to rebel and rock out, and you think about that.
Just think about it. Southern rock is the combination of country and rock.
I think there's some influence even with AC/DC in the country rock in the southern rock. I mean, there's that same sound, that same drive that even in some of the country bands. Especially you get a band like
there
come
you
on.
go.
Yeah, here we go again.
I don't know if you get much country in Australia, so I don't.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean they do. I mean, you think about that. What's his name? Who's that big
Keith
star?
Urban is like
Keith
the
Urban.
only. Yeah, but he watched like country on like CMT and shit. I think my opinion on AC/DC and Scott, you can agree or disagree. They're more originated from the blues.
Sure.
To begin with, the basic structure of the 12-bar blues, and they incorporated the rock and made it their own sound.
Well, indeed. Yeah.
Well, actually, New Riders of the Purple Sage was the band I was thinking of. A little bit of New Riders on there, in some of the Southern blues that they play. I mean, there's a lot of bands that do that. and AC/DC is one of them, and a couple of the other bands, Rolling Stones even, will do some country.
Sure.
I mean, that that southern rock sound. But as far as fun trips are concerned, though, Tennessee and Mississippi, and if you go down into Texas, there's some rowdy motherfuckers down there that like rock and roll. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think Bon Scott had a guilty pleasure for Southern rock. Mm-hmm. He used to wear the Leonard Skinner belt buckle, so.
Right.
Yeah. Bon Scott definitely was big influenced by American music, and I now, okay, here's a question for you as you're in a couple different AC/DC tribute bands. What do you like playing better? The pre-Brian Johnson or the Brian Johnson era, or does it not matter to you?
It really doesn't matter. I don't want to play just one or the other because I love them both so much, and I love mixing them up in the set. They
sound better.
They just really,
But there's people out there, believe it or not, that, and I'm sure you're aware of it, that are, I only like AC/DC with Bon Scott. What? What are you talking about? It's crazy.
Sure.
For 90% of the population didn't know AC/DC until Bon Scott was already dead anyways.
Right.
With Back in Black, when that came out, that was when everybody knew who AC/DC was. So for a lot of people, they don't even realize there was another singer.
That's true.
Yeah, I've witnessed that myself. It's shocking, but it's true.
It is pretty shocking. I mean, because my favorite AC/DC album is it's always been a tie between their two Bon Scott albums, Highway to Hell or Dirty Deeds. So those two albums right there, I played like forever. And I don't know which one I could say is better. I think they're both just about the same for me.
They're all great.
Long way to the top of rock and roll. Have you guys ever had a set of bagpipes on stage, or?
Oh yeah, we've done that. We can't do that at every show, but it's nice when we do it. I love doing that.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
and let's ask this big question. I hope your drummer's not like AC/DC's drummer. He doesn't have a contract out on anybody, does he? Yeah.
No, not that I know of.
Yeah, that's some crazy shit right there. That any man in a popular rock band would try to put a hit out on his wife in this day and age.
That really happened?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's just. I don't know what to say about that.
It's ridiculous. It really is, and it really put a stain on him as a member of one of the greatest rock bands of all time. I don't think they want anything to do with them anymore.
So
I don't think they do.
Okay, here's the question that I want to ask. What year is your SG? Do you use an SG?
Well, I've got a couple. I've got one they're not vintage models by any means. Mm-hmm. Over the years, I've had to sell guitars and stuff to pay rent, and then you accumulate guitars. Sometimes people loan me guitars to play, but right now I have my pride and joy is a 2004 61 reissue, and that's a guitar that's made after the SG that after the first year that it came out. It's pretty neat design, and I love it. Sounds great.
Yeah, they all sound great. I used to have a 69 SG. Well, my dad did, and he sold it for $300.
Wow.
And this guitar player friend of mine said, "Dude, I would have gave him $3,000 for it." And it was such a pretty guitar. And the sound from them it's one of a kind. That's what Angus. His sound is built upon is that SG, I believe.
Oh yeah, it's got that kind of that thin, trebly, bitey tone to it,
Yeah, it does, and it sounds cool. Great. And it's just like, because if he plays with another guitar, I don't think it would. He'd still be Angus Young, and he'd still sound good, but I don't think it would be that classic AC/DC sound.
Yeah, you never know. You know, a lot of that's in the fingers too.
Sure, that's true. That's true. And there's a lot of.
He has
go ahead.
Well, he has a very uncanny way of vibrating his notes and his picking attack. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you could hear that in his playing on an acoustic probably, you know, and it would sound different than someone else playing the same thing, you know, note for note. Because of his finger attack, you know, it's just insane.
Yeah, AC/DC was meant to be a live band. I don't think there's. I don't think there's a lot of bands. There's a few of them out there that were just strictly meant to be a live band, and AC/DC is one of those. And you know, that's right up there with the Rolling Stones, and some of these bands were just meant to do live shows, and some really weren't. When I think about it, when I went to see Aerosmith, it was about 8 or 9 years ago. They were awful, and it was one of the worst shows I'd ever been to. But then I saw AC/DC, and I said, "Oh my fucking God, these guys are just phenomenal live." Who do you think they're going to replace Randy Johnson with?
Randy Johnson's a pitcher.
I mean Brian Johnson.
Yeah, Randy Johnson's a pitcher for you know.
Yeah. Brian Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you think they're going to replace him with, or are they going to?
I kind of think they might keep Axl.
That's actually what the rumor is that he's going to do a dual band, Guns N' Roses and AC/DC.
I heard he does a really good job. I've seen a couple of his performances. He wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's fresh blood, and they like that. You know, he's showing them a lot of you know, and he's got experience.
He does, but here's the one thing that he also has. He's a professional douchebag. And sooner or later, that's going to get in the way of his time with AC/DC, because Angus Young's not going to take it. You know, he's a fucking seasoned veteran who paid his dues. You're not coming and taking over my band. Leave.
To be honest with you, I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet.
Well, he wants to be famous again. Axl Rose wants so much to be famous like he was in the past that he'll do anything he can right now. Yeah. And that means being good.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't been late for one performance since this tour started, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a pretty good track record there.
That's not bad at all. I mean, think about that for a minute. Hey, if he can be on time for a show, God knows what he can do with the show. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, if he's actually sober, that's even better. I mean,
I don't even think it was his drugs. I think it was his douchebag ways that caused him.
No, it was alcohol, man. It was so. It had to be.
I don't think it was.
Such an asshole.
I think he was naturally that way. I just think he was a douche, and that's who he is. And, you know, nothing against him, because I have a Guns N' Roses T-shirt on right now. It's one of my favorite bands ever. Right. But that doesn't mean
I have to you make them break up.
Yeah. It's just like I love Van Halen, but Dave Lee Roth's an ass bag too.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, not as big as ass bag as Eddie Van Halen. I mean, Eddie Van Halen's a first-class prick.
Van Halen's just an ass bag band, but we're not. Yeah, it is. But I'll tell you one thing. I don't care. You know what?
We don't care.
I say so much shit about. I want him to come on. Eddie Van Halen, come on, tell me you're not an ass bag. You know?
Yeah, I know you're an ass bag. We all know you're an asshole. I mean, there's no getting around it. He's a unless he knows for sure the interview is going to be tape delayed. He ain't doing the interview, and you know, he wants to talk to people like Barbara Walters and people like that who are going to, you know, use kid gloves. You know, you know, but
right.
What about your abusive behavior in the studio? What about your fucking rush to put a fucking album out before it's ready? What about what's good enough is good enough?
I would ask him, why does
so
Sammy Hagar want to punch you in the face?
Yeah,
that's my first question. I would ask him.
Yeah,
but
I mean, Michael Anthony was the backbone of the band, and you know that just by listening to their new stuff, whatever new stuff that is, because it's all old stuff that they redid. I mean, it's just like, you know what? See you, dude. I'm, as far as Van Halen is concerned, it just, it was just a rush to doing something, get it done, let's get it in the can and sell it. You know what I'm saying?
What, do they have something new out?
They did a couple of years ago that a different kind of truth and shit, and every song on it was just songs that they didn't want to put, that they didn't put on other albums in the past. So some of the songs were written for Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, and all the other albums.
Oh, okay.
So they're kind of, all they did was re-record them. So you can hear some of them are like, oh my God, that song would have been really cool on that album. But then, not now,
Not now. This is not new. This is nothing new here. This is the same old Van Halen from before.
So that's all they did.
So, anyway, as far as a band is concerned, have you thought about writing your own stuff?
Oh yeah, I'm. That's what I'm in the process of doing right now, actually.
Okay.
We're compiling ideas and getting our shit together.
Right. I mean, is there a new band in the future with you, or?
Yeah, I hope so.
You hope so?
I certainly hope so. We're working on something.
Okay. Cool. Obviously, you can't divulge that tonight, right?
Well, it's a little premature right now.
Okay.
We have to get these guys together a couple more times and see how things go.
Okay.
Right.
Is it going to have that AC/DC edge, or is it going to be something a little bit
different? You know it. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's going to be like AC/DC, I hope.
It'll be, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, if you can write them
like that. It's going to be, good hard rock, with that feel. I want that feel like AC/DC.
Right. Okay. Well, that's cool. That's cool. And you guys did the, how many times have you done the Family Arena, AC/DC?
I've only played there once.
Oh, I thought you were there twice.
One time.
That was the last.
Just one time with AC/DC.
Okay. Okay. And what's the name of the other tribute band that you're in?
I'm playing in Big Gun. That's the gig that I just did this weekend, and then also Hell's Bells.
Wow.
Which is actually all the same guys as Big Gun.
Oh, cool. So you got like the
go under another.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they've been around since Hell's Bells has been around since 1998, and Big Gun has been around since 2000. Mm-hmm. And they kept crossing paths, and occasionally one of their guys would be sick, and one of the bands would call one of the other bands and said, "Hey, can we borrow your Angus?" Because they knew each other. And over those 20 some odd years, they ended up merging as one. And because they, went under a certain agency under the name Hell's Bells for so many years, that agency wanted them to keep that name. And the only original member left is Andy Bowman, the singer. And he's the one that started Big Gun. But he became the singer of Hell's Bells years ago, and they just shared each other, and now it's all merged into one, and we have to go under two names, depending on which agency is booking us.
Well, that's kind of awesome, actually.
It is. And it makes sense,
Yeah. Right.
The agency has years' worth of contracts under the name Hell's Bells, and then Andy, he's pretty much the leader of all these bands, Big Gun and Hell's Bells now.
it's almost like, you're a band swinger, man. You just do it with any band that's going to get up there and do AC/DC. Yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to look like that. If anybody needs an Angus, call me. Because I'm all about it.
Well, pretty soon the real thing might need an Angus. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Oh no, I don't think that would ever happen.
No, that wouldn't. That's the only member. That's the only member that can't be replaced.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because all the other members basically have been replaced.
Oh yeah, they all have been one time or another.
Right.
Yeah, so, I know.
Yeah. The drummer has been replaced like 87,000 times.
They're the closest thing to a tribute band there is. I mean, they just.
Oh, I know.
And have they done anything new lately? I mean, what was the last thing they did? AC/DC.
Well, Rock or Bust is the last thing they've done, and that's getting to be 2 years old now.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: that album went gold or platinum in a time where nobody buys records, so that's pretty damn good.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I know, and it's a great album.
It is.
It really is. It's one of my favorites.
My favorite, of the Brian Johnson era AC/DC, and it's not even one of their most famous albums, but just probably because it was one of the first albums I ever had, and it's Flick of the Switch.
Okay.
I mean, it was not a big album, but that's what got me into AC/DC. And then I kind of went backwards. Then I bought For Those About to Rock. And then I kept going backwards until I got to the Bon Scott. And I kind of liked that one better. But then I always couldn't decide, so I just became a fan of both. Like the same thing when you had to be a Van Halen, Sammy Hagar fan or Dave Lee Roth fan. No, I don't. I can like whatever I want. It didn't make sense. Yeah. It didn't make sense to me to like one. Why not like both?
Yep.
Because they both. I mean, but even Brian Johnson to me was a great frontman. He was an excellent frontman.
Oh yeah.
And his growl. I mean, just that note that he would hit would just grab you, man. And I think Bon Scott was more of a showman than Brian Johnson. But I think Brian Johnson got the job done with his fucking voice, man. His shit was powerful.
Oh yeah. He was a madman.
Yeah, definitely. And I heard that he went deaf not because of AC/DC, but because of his auto racing.
Yeah, that seems to be the word out there on the street.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So it wasn't rock and roll that made him deaf. It was fucking driving race cars for 30, 40 years or whatever he's been doing it for.
Yeah, I know.
No shit. Yeah.
It must be nice to be able to own race cars and do what you want.
Yeah, that's got to be the most expensive hobby in the world.
Absolutely. And he's got some very expensive cars. Well, of course, Steven Tyler just dished out almost $2 million for a sports car. So I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. But he's got to have something because his man boobs keep getting in the way. So
man boobs keep getting in the way. Have any of you seen this? Have you heard the thing about from Aerosmith? He's had a stroke or something, man.
He had a seizure.
No.
He had a seizure.
No.
Yeah, but doesn't have Steven Tyler.
Steven Tyler.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did see something.
He did.
Then
but it was
last night, Marilyn Manson got fucking knocked down by a prop.
He got crushed.
He got crushed on stage. He was doing a live show, and one of his pieces from the light show came down and fell on top of him.
Someone just got fired.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's going to cost somebody some fucking money, man. That's going to be expensive.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe he's canceled the next 9 shows are canceled.
Well, yeah, because he's like the thinnest man ever. He's so tiny.
He's like Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
You know what though? I wish him well, and I hope he has.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I love his music.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's awesome. Yeah,
he's great. I've seen him a couple times. He's a weirdo though, big time.
He is a weirdo.
Yeah, he is a little weird.
Manson.
He's even weird, like when he doesn't have to be weird, like off stage and shit, and like in interviews and whatever. It's like, all right, dude.
Right.
You know what though? He's supposed to be very, very smart, and even has like a college degree.
Oh, I'm sure he does. You know,
so was Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol was a nut bar, and he was the same way. He was eccentric, and he would sit around and talk about shit that didn't matter. And I mean, you got to know that some of his influence came from Alice Cooper. You think?
Yeah, about 90% of his influence did.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that Alice Cooper had a hand in some of that shit.
It was Cooper and Kiss and Sabbath. Those were his people that he liked, and he emulated a lot of that with his music and his stage shows. And he's weird, but actually, like Mary Jane said, he's a very smart man. If you listen to his interviews, if you get past the weirdness, he makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this: besides AC/DC, Scott, besides AC/DC, what group out there when you were growing up really just knocked your fucking socks off and said, "Wow, that's awesome shit"? Who did you really dig back in your younger years besides AC/DC?
Oh wow, there's so many.
Who was your main influence besides AC/DC? I gotta ask. Because we do this every show. We ask every show.
Well, I'd have to say Ted Nugent.
Ted Nugent. Oh.
Ted Nugent and AC/DC were my main thing when I was a kid.
That's cool.
And I was torn in between, who do I like more? But, and then Van Halen came out and just blew my mind. I loved them. That was incredible stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've always kind of gotten influenced by my friends' older brothers and sisters, so I just got swarmed with so many good hard rock bands when I was 13 that, by the time I was 15, it was just about everybody you can name under the sun, as far as hard rock goes.
Mm-hmm. And that's cool. That's cool. I always identified with my older cousins in that with their musical taste, and for me, the band that did it all for me was Ace Frehley and Kiss. That's what got me into rock and roll. And
right.
It's amazing because AC/DC, Kiss, all these bands that we grew up listening to are still out there. I mean, they're not done.
I think it's pretty fucking cool when they're all in the 50s rocking.
Yeah, I mean, they're not done, and it's cool, and it's not like they suck because they don't. Well, Ace really sucks sometimes because he's drunk a lot, but he still gets out there and does it. But,
he still does it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
He's
still out there doing it, right?
Yeah,
he don't give a shit.
Yeah. We used to joke about that in high school, are we going to be listening to Black Sabbath when we're in our 60s? And we're like, hell yeah, we are. And we are.
Yeah, and not only are you still listening to them, you could just recently go see them still. I mean, it was...
Exactly.
It's pretty cool. It's just I guess in the 80s, when all the 60s bands were still around, it was the same way for people of that generation. Here I am in the 80s going to see the Grateful Dead in my early teens, and there's guys in their 50s there and stuff. It was cool times, and that's how it's happening now the same way. I went to a Guns N' Roses concert not that long ago, and a lot of the people there were young enough to be my kids, so it was kind of this is cool,
Yeah, I love that aspect. I've been seeing that a lot too.
Mm-hmm. Rock and roll gaps it gaps all generations. Rock and roll gaps all, once you've heard it. Once you heard that sound, it's like the song from Foreigner, it's one guitar. And once the kids hear it, man, it's like, wow, this is amazing. And they're no different than we were when we were growing up. And going back to what you said, I'm 60, and I own a rock station. So that'll tell you.
Yeah.
No, you're never too old for rock and roll.
No.
Well, no,
never. 80 and rocking it.
Well, people like Stones and Eric Clapton and Paul McCartney,
they're still doing it.
Right, it's proof that it never dies until they die. I mean, David Bowie recorded an album and released it a day before he died. I mean, it's like he worked right till the end. He worked to the end. I mean, that's awesome. And then the first song that he wrote off it was so great. It was like, oh my God, this guy still has great music. It's a shame that he's gone. Yeah. And a lot of people like grow up and stop listening to certain people, and it's kind of stupid. You liked them when you were younger. Why can't you still like them now? And I like everything since the day I was born, I think. I don't know. I even listen to pop and country and whatever. I don't care. It's music,
Yeah,
I prefer rock the most, but I'll listen to some Bee Gees. Hell yeah.
I would still pay.
A change of pace is good.
To be honest, I would pay to go see Elton John. I'd love to see Elton John in concert again. I mean,
I've seen him. He was great.
I mean, when I saw him, it was in the 70s. I mean, he was wearing the big glasses and a big fucking what was it they call those throws that he had on. He had like a nightgown on and shit. And I was going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But it was a great show, and he always put on a good show. And I would have loved to seen him when he did Dead Man Across the Water.
Madman.
Yeah, Madman Across the Water. I mean,
I wanted to see him do Don't Go Breaking My Heart. That's my favorite.
Oh, that's your favorite. Yeah, Don't Go Breaking My Heart. Yeah. Didn't Paul McCartney do a duet with MJ?
No, I don't know.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson.
Two of them.
Yeah.
And he did
Ebony and Ivory.
No, that was the one with Wonder.
Yeah, that was.
Okay,
Dom's.
You're right. Yeah,
that's Dom's era.
He did Say with Paul McCartney, and he did The Girl It's Mine with McCartney, and that's because Paul McCartney was trying to hold on to his popularity in the early '80s. It was starting to wane.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and it was brilliant. And he did. He captured an audience again, and he stayed on top for another, almost 10 years before the 90s came. But it was so smart. And the other smart thing that Paul McCartney did when he did those duets on those two albums, he hired George
Martin.
He hired who?
And got the clip he was doing. I mean, it's still
Your mic's going in and out, bud.
Richest rock star ever.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a Beatle.
He was a Beatle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, were you influenced by the Beatles at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that came later. That came later in my love for music.
Okay. All right. Who's your
because
favorite?
when I was younger, it was more about the hard rock thing and.
Sure.
And, I mean, when I was 5, I remember I loved Let It Be. I loved that song.
Great song.
But as far as influences go,
what did
I
your
say
parents
yes
listen
because, well, that's where I heard the Beatles when I was 5.
Okay.
They had like 7 albums. They never had a big collection when I was that young. And the Beatles was the only rock album in there. And I would go through all those albums, and one day I found the Beatles album and put it on, and I'm like, oh my God, this sounds so much different than all these other albums.
Yeah,
and the Glenn Miller and the yeah, exactly. And I'm like, whoa, but I didn't want to get caught listening to the album, so I would listen to it real quick and get it away.
Yeah,
one day I put it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody done somebody wrong song and Johnny Cash. And I used to go through my dad's albums, and he had there was some popular music of the day, and he would a lot of Frank Sinatra, a lot of that stuff.
All right, your parents were lame because my dad's collection was Uriah Heep and Black Sabbath and Leonard Skinner.
Your parents are my age.
Molly Hatchet and
my parents could have been your parents' parents, man.
My parents met after House of the Holy concert, so yeah.
I mean, I went to, I was Uriah Heep. My kids grew up with Uriah Heep and Johnny Winter and Edgar Winter and Alice Cooper, and they grew up with all of that in the house.
Plus my dad was a DJ, so we always had music at the house. So I was lucky, and I always thought that other kids just had all kinds of music in their house too, and I would find it hard to believe when I went to somebody's house and said, "Here, did you ever hear Jimi Hendrix?" No. What the fuck do you mean, no?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then I'd play, and they would be hooked. Or how about, hey, did you ever get stoned a Dark Side of the Moon? What is that? What? All right, sit down.
Sit down. Let me show you.
I put up so many people's minds because my parents' music collection that it was cool. I mean, I was like the coolest kid on the block because of my music collection.
Right. Yeah.
And it wasn't even mine. I just stole it all.
My grandma gave me my first Jimi Hendrix album.
Grandmas
which
are
was
awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, my dad was the biggest Eric Clapton fan. So he always played Eric Clapton. I'm like, Eric Clapton's good. And now my mom was a Jimi Hendrix fan. So one day she played Jimi Hendrix in the house, and I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so different. And it was like, it was eye-opening that's when I started exploring that the guitar can sound like anything you want it to if you're good enough, and I was just hooked, captivated by the guitar because of Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix. And then
Hendrix is one of my faves.
Right. And then I found Ace Frehley on my own, and not that he's as good as them, but his sound to me captivated me and hooked me. You know what I mean? The way he did the tremolos and all that stuff. And by no means is he on the same level as them, but if you listen to Ace Frehley's music, he was so influenced by Hendrix, and then he plays Hendrix his own way and he made his own style. So that's what I liked about it. If you listen to different guitar players, you could hear their influence. And I think that's awesome, and you should always pay tribute to your influence, especially these big stars. If you're a big, huge star, Eddie Van Halen, pay tribute to your influences because that's how you got started.
Yeah, I agree.
So, why don't we? You want to take a quick break here? Everybody can go to the head and get something to drink and.
Speaking of which, I think I'm gonna just skip. I need to go because it's dinner time over here.
Okay, well, MJ, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I had fun.
And I hope you learned something. This is the education of rock here.
I always learn something. I had a good time talking to you guys.
Okay, sweetie.
And
you
I
have a
wish
good
you
night.
luck with your bands and just keep rocking.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
She didn't
All right,
get much
bye,
of
you
tonight.
guys.
All right, good night, sweetie.
Bye.
Good night. Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Who Made Who, and we're going to go ahead and rock out to that. And then what we'll do is we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. This is KGFRocks.com. You're listening to The Conjugal Visit. Killer song. That right there, Who Made Who?
Oh, yeah.
That one. You lost your breath over that song.
I'm all out of
that
breath,
one's not
man.
that easy to play either.
No.
No.
And that voice is unmistakable, right?
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorites.
That's like the only song that came off of that one album that was really good. And I remember being like, what was it? Was it the Who Made Who album? Wasn't it for Maximum Overdrive or something? The movie? I can't remember, but it was like the only one that I enjoyed off that one, and the rest were old songs or something.
Yeah, that's
Was it Blow Up Your Video?
Yeah, the rest are all older.
Yeah, they were and I thought it was shitty because I liked that song, so I had to buy it, but I already had all the other songs,
Right. Well, they did have the instrumentals on there too, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was unique.
Well, that was a thing too back then in the day. You could have stuff like that because people were buying records. So you add it. Oh, buy this record. We know you already have every single song on here, but there's the instrumental versions too. Oh shit, I gotta have that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I remember that now that you mention it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We actually, guys, we've got someone in our chat who wants to ask. He asked me, have you asked Scott, what is it about the music of AC/DC that does it for you? Made him want to play their music and showcase it. And my answer would probably be because they kick ass. But what is it about AC/DC that makes you want to showcase their music?
Well, besides being one of my all-time favorite bands, I see, that a lot of people have kind of abandoned the older style of music. And the thing about AC/DC, it seems like, if you hear it on the radio, you might actually just change the station because the radio plays it so much and they only play the certain songs. But then, so many people do that, but yet when they see it live, they go crazy. Yeah. For those songs they constantly change the station on. But for me, when I was young, I didn't even really know who they were yet, and I heard that coming through my sister's walls. I'd be down in another room, and all I could hear was the drum beat and the bass.
Right.
And I'm like, man, what is that? And after weeks of hearing that, it was the only band that did it for me. She'd put on other stuff and I'd hear it, but it did not have the groove. Mm-hmm. And hardly anything did to me, as a kid. But one day I was like, man, I got to go up and see what in the hell she's listening to, because all I could hear was the bass and the drums, but I loved it. Right. And then when I saw what it was, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get more of this, and I wasn't even playing guitar yet.
And this was on tape, or was this on vinyl?
It was on vinyl.
Yeah.
It was the High Voltage album.
Yeah.
The High Voltage album, and it was just, I couldn't even hear the vocals or the guitar, but then when I heard it on the radio, I was just like, oh my God, who is this?
Yeah.
It didn't register right away, and Bond's voice got me, and I'm like, oh my God. And then that guitar tone,
Well, the
I was
one thing
pretty new.
The one thing that people don't talk about AC/DC is that pretty good rhythm section they got. I mean, they always have boisterous, loud drums in your face, and the bass has always been consistent. So all aspects of AC/DC together make them special. I mean, say what you want about it, their drummer, Phil Rudd, he was really good at the time. I mean, he was amazing.
Right.
And then my favorite drum album of AC/DC is The Razor's Edge, when they had Chris Slade. Wow. Thunderstruck just fucking went right through you, and that's what their key was that just pounding drum sound, and like you said, his tone, and then that voice, there was something to rock out to everywhere. It didn't matter if you were a bass player, drummer, whatever, you got into them.
Yeah, that's just pure rock and roll right there.
Definitely. And and they did it right too, because they always stayed. They didn't care about what the music scene was at the time. AC/DC's played their brand of rock and roll, no matter what year it was. They never changed, and I love that about them. They didn't care what the other bands were doing.
Yeah, they didn't get into the disco like the Rolling Stones.
They didn't get into anything. Nothing.
They didn't roll over for ratings. They rolled. Right. They rolled for rock. And I got to give it to AC/DC. They're one of very few bands that didn't bend to pop, didn't bend to disco, and then try to come back into rock again. There's nothing like seeing Mick Jagger up on stage, and I think he's great and he's awesome, and all that. But then he plays their rock. And then we'll turn around and they don't do a lot of the disco era in concert, like from the Goathead Soup album and stuff like that when they're live. Okay, although some of that stuff was okay, but most of it was shit. And
but a lot of that made them
hell of a lot of money.
Yeah,
made them a hell of a lot of money. But AC/DC never bent. They stuck it out, man. They stuck it like Judas Priest. They stuck it out. Everybody's surprised. Judas Priest. Well, yeah, they were in the '70s, man. I mean, they've been around for a long time. So as far as that goes, a lot of bands out there, they bent to what popular belief was. These other bands here stayed true to their colors. And that's what I appreciate about it.
You know what? AC/DC, that's the funniest thing ever. It's funny because, like, they created the rock fashion with the studs and the leather and all that.
Yeah.
And it was because they got them from the S&M shops and all that.
Yeah.
and nobody, like, he was, the one thing about him is he's a gay man, whatever, I don't care. But he looked gayer when we didn't know he was gay. Now he looks like a badass. And, back then he had the short blonde hair and the studs and all that. I'm like, how did nobody not know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, back then we didn't. Back then you didn't. It took 10, 12 years into his career before people found out Elton John was gay.
The thing with
it took me about 10 or 12 years to even know what gay meant.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, what in the hell? What's a gay?
And it shouldn't matter what you do in your spare time in music, but it kind of does in the metal world. It was everybody. He was afraid that if he came out, the metal fans would just leave because most of metal fans are dudes. They really are. Okay, and it didn't happen that way. Everybody still loved him, so that's cool. And I still to this day think he is one of the best metal vocalists ever, and
I do too. Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, so he still has the pipes sometimes. I just saw them not too long ago, and I saw him 2 shows, and the one show was and the next show was really good. So I think he should have days between the shows. You know what I mean? Like, get older now. Drink some tea, take a day off, buddy.
Take a day off, right?
Yeah.
Instead of doing back-to-back shows.
But who still has, I think, the most amazing voice in metal and sounds the same as he did in 1981, and that's Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden.
Another phenomenal voice.
Still sounds just as good as he did that. And I think it's funny, though, is that these bands that we're talking about right now are iconic bands, but there's not many bands of today that I can say that will have that statue 20 years from now.
Yeah, I know. They come and go real quick lately here.
There's no staying power anymore. Like, these bands like Judas Priest and AC/DC and all these, they still are recording and touring. They're still out there. And I don't know if these bands of today are going to have that staying power. Everybody's like a flash in the pan now.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, because these bands like Priest who have been doing it for 30 years, they have a lot of fan following, so they're going to show up to the shows, but now, that's the only way you can do it. You have to tour your ass off.
It's almost like the old days where you had a tour and tour and tour and tour and tour. And, music, the one thing that the internet did for music is bring it back to the basics and back to where people have to actually work for it again. And it's also easier to get your record out there. I should say that too. So it's much easier avenue. But it's not just record sales anymore. Like, remember when the Beatles stopped touring? They would fucking be broke now if they stopped. Now,
exactly.
They wouldn't. They wouldn't last. Yeah. Well, see, and the thing about it's gone complete opposite. Back in the '60s, late '60s, and early '70s, bands were releasing 2-3 albums a year. And they would go on a 6-month tour, hit about 40 towns, and they'd be done. And they'd be done.
Now it's 2 years tour.
2-year tour, 3-year. Oh, the final tour. It's a world tour. And then they tour the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, and then go to Europe and shit. And it's like, what the fuck, man? They're all over.
There's another thing that happens, too, is there is a couple bands that came through Buffalo, New York, there's 3 times in the same year because they were opening for different bands and shit. Yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, it's like, holy shit, this band's got to hate doing this, going in the same fucking towns over and over. But you're not going to make money in today's music if you don't play shows.
If you don't tour,
exactly,
you're done. You're done, and that's why.
Because now,
yeah, go ahead.
Nowadays you're lucky if you get your, your song sold for $1. On the stream site somewhere, and odds are you're only going to get a small percentage of that. So you have to go out and tour and sell your merchandise. That's the only way you're going to make money, And
I see a lot of the common trend is bands that are trying to make it give their music away for free and then come to our show. So it's almost a great time to be a music appreciator because you're going to get a lot of things cheaper and for free and legally. I'm not talking about stealing the music. Don't be a fucking retard and steal people's music. But you can get a lot of free music.
Buy it, folks. We're saying buy it. Go ahead, Mike, because we buy ours. I mean, we pay for ours. Our music, everybody out there in radio land, you're listening. If you ever want to be owner of a radio station, think twice, because it ain't free. No. Okay.
The only thing free here is free ride.
The only thing free here is free ride, and that's all there is to that. But I mean, we pay for our music too. So, and don't think that we get our music for free, because we don't.
But here's the best part about it, Scott. We pay for the music that we play, and every time we play it, we pay them again because we have to pay royalties.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it's almost like we buy the track, and then every time we play it, have to pay for it again.
And then we also have artists who send us music that they think they want us to put on into rotation, right? And we do that. And if it's good enough, we both have to listen to it, and we put it on. But when we play that music and we pay royalties, they get a piece of that pie, even though they just gave us that music to put on the radio. So it's to your advantage to give us your music.
Sure.
You're getting paid twice.
We pay, all the license boards, ASCAP, BMI, all of them. So it's cool to have a radio station, though, and we're not terrestrial radio station, so we don't have to buy a FCC license, and we don't have to. So it's a lot cheaper than if you wanted to go buy, WKGR, right? Yeah. But it's just like a band. You have your travel expense and your equipment and whatever. We have the same thing. So it's cool, though. But where else could you sit in your kitchen and talk to some cool people and get broadcast to around the world? Only in America, buddy.
In America. And when your EP comes out, and you do your own stuff, we want it. So
awesome, yeah.
Okay, we want it. So you just keep, don't run and hide on me now.
Oh, I'm not.
All right. Hey, you all are listening to KGFRocks.com, and this is the Conjugal Visit, and our very special guest tonight is Scott Angus. Right? Is that right, Scott? You play Angus, man. You should see him up on stage, Guido. This guy here rocks it. I've seen you guys. I've seen you at Pops. I've seen you. You play Pops, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Pops.
Yeah, that's the place we played a few times, I believe.
I saw him a couple of weeks ago out at the Family Arena, and that's where we got to talking. We were out back smoking, and we were talking. I said, "You got to come on my show, man. You got to come on my show." And finally, I got together with you. I said, "You ready to do this?" And I'm so glad you came on the show tonight. It's been a great conversation so far. I'm not trying to end the show or anything, but we appreciate you coming on the show, man. Tell us what it's all about. We like to educate our audience. And when we have a guest like you who knows his music and knows the history of music, that's awesome. And hopefully our audience is learning something from you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
dude, it's cool.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Yeah.
there's one thing I wanted to ask too. Oh, okay. Now, are you the only one that in these bands do the other members like try to emulate who they're playing? I know you wear the schoolboy outfit and use the SG. Does anybody else dress accordingly?
Not to the T, you know. Right. Not like.
Well, there's really not a T for the rest of them, you know.
You know, there's really not. I mean, there are certain like clothing items you could possibly wear to look just like they may have looked on one particular night.
Sure.
But, you know, they have a style. And most of the bands that I play in emulate that style, that dress code. Mm-hmm. You know, it's usually just jeans and a T-shirt, you know, or jeans and a button-up type of short sleeve shirt type of thing. You know, that's about it. You know, that's what they wear.
Yeah. Hey, I was in the glam thing. We used to tease the hair and do the eyeliner before the show, so you know.
Yeah. It's so sad. We don't need to be reminded of that. Oh my god!
Hey, I grew up. All right, like I said, I was born in 1974. I'm sure I'm younger than both of you, whatever. But I grew up with parents that my father was a DJ. Almost everybody in my family were musicians, so it was so awesome. So by the time I was teenage years, I fucking knew every band in existence, and it was like crazy. Everybody was like, "How the fuck do you know all that?" I'm like, "Because I had an awesome fucking childhood. What the hell did you have?" You know, I mean, it was filled with music, guitar lessons. I played the trumpet. Music was everywhere. It was the coolest thing ever, and I owe it all to my mom and dad. My dad passed away, but right till the time he died, he DJ'd with me. We used to do weddings and proms and everything. It was so cool. I mean, that's
really cool.
Yeah, it's a family that plays together, stays together, right?
I got lucky, but we went through during the 80s, it was the worst time, man, to be a musician. Because if you didn't identify with the glam scene, you weren't going to make it in rock then.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I was in California during that time trying to do an original project, and right at the time, I think it was Guns N' Roses was just starting to come out. Sure. And, you know, there's no way we could have competed with them. They were onto something, and they were a long distance.
Yeah, they did. And I tell you what, they fucked up, though, because they could have been the next Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin or whatever. But by being prima donnas and fucking it up, they lost that title. And I think they should be ashamed of themselves for that because they had the best music ever. I loved them so much.
And you know what? What's a shame, though? What's really a shame, Scott, and tell me if I'm wrong, they'll never get it back again the way it was.
Oh,
I don't see that coming anytime soon, you know, but I do agree. I thought they were going to be the next Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Rolling Stones. You know, I thought that was
they just didn't make
it.
They just didn't make it.
But the band that nobody thought would be, namely Metallica, did take the throat.
Oh my God, did they ever?
I mean, nobody ever expected Metallica to be this status they are today. Nobody back in.
Oh, I know.
And, you know, it was like I always listen to Metallica. So at first, when that Black Album came out and they were getting famous, I almost started to hate them because no, I don't want everybody to like them. You know,
And
that's my band. That's
but then I said fuck it and loved them anyways.
Right.
Well, yeah, they pulled off some amazing feats, to say the least. You know, without any advertisement, hardly at all, you know.
But they had...
And they did it.
You would, you know, not see the Metallica albums on the charts in the earlier days, but you go to one of their shows and you couldn't fucking move because there were so many people there. And it was like, why aren't these guys famous? Because nobody would help them.
Right. Nobody would help.
It was like, it was too heavy. What do you mean it's too heavy? It's the next progression of Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin stuff. You know what I mean? You can't stay the same. This was the next progression. So they did it on their own, which is really cool. And
oh yeah.
Now they're living pretty. You know, they're fucking. Last time I looked at anything, Lars Ulrich's worth $340 million. So
yeah,
I mean,
there's no getting around it.
Yeah,
They're rich.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Well, Lars went and got singing lessons, and
Yeah.
it changed his tone. It changed his vibrato. It changed everything about his voice. Did it make it better or worse? What do you think, Scott?
I think the pitch automator that corrects your voice made it better.
I absolutely agree.
You think so, huh?
The one thing about Lars Ulrich, though, is if you really listen to him, he's not that great of a drummer. There's so many better drummers than him. But what he has is fucking ferociousness, and the way he hits it and the fills that he has is metal mastery.
Oh,
It's just nobody does it better than him for his style.
Yeah, music doesn't have to be ultimately too complicated to get its point across, you know.
Well,
and it's good when you're a kid and you can listen to something and teach it to yourself.
Sure.
You know, and get your hopes up of being a rock star. And I mean, when I was a kid, that's what I did. I'd learn stuff that I could pick off the albums, and then I'd learn the whole album. And that was just, basic rock and roll, like Black Sabbath, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, But if it was too technical, there was no fun in that for me. It was like, well, this stuff's a little too hard. I don't understand it.
Right. It's true, too. But here, I was just the opposite. And this is funny. I wanted to learn how to play guitar. So I saved up money and I bought a cheap guitar. And then I took music lessons from this guitar player. He was like this rock guitar player, local guitar player. So I bring this sheet music with me, and he goes, first day. He's like, all right, what do you got? I said, I put it on the table, and it was Dave Lee Roth, Yankee Rose. So he takes it, and he rips the whole fucking song out. And I'm like, oh, cool. He goes, yeah, let's put that away because you're never going to play that. And then he fucking puts out Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star for me or something like that. I'm like, what the fuck? But he said, you have to learn the basics. He says, you're never going to play something like Steve Vai if you don't know how to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And, I said, and it made sense. So I started listening to him, and, I never finished the lessons. I just started learning on my own, but he made sense because you're not going to be Steve Vai on your first day. Steve Vai wasn't Steve Vai on his first day.
Right.
I mean, but then again, if you listen to something like Slash from Guns N' Roses, who's not Steve Vai, but it doesn't mean he sucks, but I can play that, and it's really fucking cool.
Oh, yeah, it's all about the heart and soul,
right.
The passion that you put into it.
Oh,
and that you get out of it,
Yeah, like I said before, my Ace Frehley was my first guitar player that got me into it, but my favorite guitar player ever is Zakk Wylde. And Zakk Wylde can be virtuoso one moment, heavy metal the next, and then Southern rock all on the same day.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so versatile. It just amazes me. And when he plays anything, it's him. Anything, it's him. Just like when Angus plays, it's him. They got their own style that
There's
nobody
no getting
can...
out of it, right?
Yeah.
It's the same guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you are here.
Yeah, I'm here. I was just doing some studying and just looking things up. So go ahead. Carry on.
We were conversating. You know how I get carried away. I'm amused.
Yeah, you're amused. Yeah.
I live, breathe, die music every day.
Just looking up and finding out more about why Dave Mustaine left Metallica and stuff, and
because he was a douchebag. He didn't leave. They threw his ass out. They left his shit at the gate and fucking took the bus and left.
No shit.
Yeah. He was an alcoholic douchebag. That's what, and he'll say it now because he's a born again Christian now and he's sober. So he'll say I was a douchebag.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably would.
Why are you studying? Just ask me.
Why? I just got interested in it, and I just got carried away. That's all.
But I'll tell you one thing about what I loved, the fact that they got rid of Dave Mustaine was because then I got Megadeth, who to me was better to me than Metallica in the early days. Okay, Megadeth was everything. I lived, died, and breathed Megadeth for about 2-3 years. And the reason being is because everybody else that I hung around with was listening to Poison and all this glam stuff. But these guys were wearing jeans and T-shirts like I did, and I loved it. And it was just hard and happy, and so I liked a lot of the glam bands because I played with the people in those glam bands and this and that. But I more identify with that sludgy rock from the '80s, like the Guns N' Roses and the AC/DC, and the bands of that nature who didn't need to take an hour to put makeup on before the show, except for Kiss, because that was different. Don't go there. and and Motley Crue, because I really was a big fan of Motley Crue for some reason. I don't know.
Sure. Motley Crue was always good, and when I went through all of the eras of all the different times of rock and roll, and it all rests back, and it goes back to bands like Blue Oyster Cult, AC/DC, Black Sabbath. And these bands, it all goes back to them. And even bands like Hawkwind and Pantera, and then it graduates into all of this other stuff into the 80s and in the 90s. I drove right past glam. You know what I'm saying? I took the A train past glam and past disco because I wasn't going to be a part of that shit. And I like David Bowie. And and when I went to see him live and in concert, it was a different David Bowie than what you guys are used to here. It was my little China girl up on the fucking stage. Right. And I even went to the show and I said, that was, I said it out loud. This will be the last one I go to. Mm-hmm. But it was a great show. And I got free tickets, so I can't really bitch.
I was on
I got lucky.
I was on a music talk radio show one time where they asked everybody what the greatest American rock band of all time was. Not so AC/DC can't be in there, whatever. So greatest American rock band. So people are saying the Eagles and Metallica and all these bands, and I said
good answers.
Right, they are. But I said I think the greatest American rock band of all time is The Doors, and I'll tell you why. They were the only ones. They were the only ones that sold millions and chart-topping singles during the British invasion years. They're the first band to get famous from being bad, that became the rock and roll norm, and they were the coolest fucking people in the '60s. So what other band could be better than them?
Right. I mean, I semi-agree with that, and The Doors is a great choice. And the greatest American band, there's so many great American bands.
They got to be selling big records. They got to sell out big concert halls. It can't just be your favorite. I'm talking about that made impact.
Leonard Skinner. Leonard Skinner. I mean, when you see Leonard Skinner, when they went to, I forget where it was, they played in California, I think Yosemite. They went to Yosemite. 30,000 people showed up. I mean,
wow.
When you have an audience that huge, Leonard Skinner and bands.
Dude, Garth Brooks played in Central Park and 1 million people showed up.
1 million people show up.
I'm not talking about Leonard Skinner. It's a great band, no doubt about it. But what did they do? The Doors made it the norm to be bad. The Doors made it the norm to be bad. Okay? No press is bad press. The Doors were the first ones to do that. Before that, everybody had publicists. Oh my God, John Lennon just said they're bigger than the God. Oh, this and that, and blah blah blah. Jim Morrison. Oh, we're sorry. Jim Morrison didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
When they said change your lyric and he did it, they said you'll never play Ed Sullivan again. He goes, I already played Ed Sullivan. He didn't give a fuck.
I already played Ed Sullivan. I'm not going to play him again. I mean, why would I do that? Only the Beatles do it twice.
That's my opinion as the greatest American rock. I don't think they're the greatest band ever, but as far as what they did in a time when it was all British, man. Come on, everything was for the Stones, the Beatles,
the Who, yeah,
just coming out, Sabbath coming out. I mean, the Doors were the ones making money and selling.
Elvis was losing his edge.
Yeah, Elvis was dying. Yeah, you had to come up with something better, And you had bands like Deep Purple coming in and Foghat and all these British bands were coming in. Yeah, they were all British bands coming into their own. And even, and they came out when the Monkees were out, okay? And they were pop. The Monkees were considered pop. But if you listen to some of their music, I mean, the influences, the Beatles. Sure. So they were a true American British band is what they were.
Yeah. The Monkees and the Beatles were both carbon copy Beatle bands. Yeah. And the thing with it all is in the 60s is the only American band before the late 60s that was keeping up with the Beatles were the fucking Beach Boys.
The Beach Boys, yeah.
Well, it was where's these American bands? Now, all those British bands were all influenced by American artists of the 50s, okay? So they all were influenced by American artists, but then no American artists in the 60s were better than them. It was it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was. And another band to go with that recognition, though, was Grateful Dead.
Grateful Dead, okay, show-wise, yeah, but Grateful Dead sold shit for records back in the 60s.
Right, but their shows were always magnificent.
The Grateful Dead is one of those bands that didn't die till their leader died. Just like, okay, so if Angus Young dies the same way, AC/DC's done. When Jerry Garcia died, there was no more Grateful Dead.
No, not a true Grateful Dead. Right. No.
I mean, it was done, and my God, I saw them like 6 years in a row at Rich Stadium, and it was sold out every fucking time.
Yeah, and people were it was like wasn't it like a traveling caravan? I mean, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the best bands and fans that those jam rock bands.
Sure.
The encounters I've had, there's no attitude, it's all laid back.
Yeah.
It's the best scene there is.
Another great band that used to do that was the Allman Brothers. The Allman Brothers would make
the Allman Brothers were weird because they were out before Southern rock, and nobody knew how to categorize the Allman Brothers. They weren't really rock, but yet again they were. They were kind of bluesy.
Well,
but
they were like old ZZ Top. Old ZZ Top was like that. They were more of a bluesy kind of a feel. And then when the Allman Brothers would do a show, Fillmore, when they did Fillmore West, when they recorded Fillmore West, it was only supposed to be an hour and 15 minutes long. That whole set was only supposed to be an hour and 50. They turned it into a 3-hour show, and they had to put it on a double album.
With the exception of the Beatles, though, Free Ride, with the exception of the Beatles, every rock band in the 60s was blues-oriented because rock really came from blues and country. Blues and country mixed it together. Right. So rockabilly came from that, and then rockabilly turned to rock. So the Beatles were so important because they started doing something different. They weren't playing 12-bar blues anymore, and it changed the world of music. But there's still, in a lot of music, that blues standard. Still to today, we're never going to get rid of it. I'm happy with it because that's my favorite kind of music, that gritty.
You listen to songs like, when you go back to the Beatles and you go back to songs like Bulldog, and you go to do songs like You Can't Talk to Me, if you want to, you can talk to me. I mean, that's a great fucking riff there, man. That's a hardcore John Lennon riff, and that's blues. That gets into
what the best thing about the Beatles were, though, is that they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They had no clue.
No, not until George Martin got a hold of them. They knew.
But they weren't like, oh, we are these really fucking awesome writers, and we're gonna fucking set the world on fire.
No, they had no idea.
had no idea. I mean,
they were playing Mercy. They were playing the Mersey beat and all that crap before they even cut an album. And once they did that it was on. But listen, we can talk about the Beatles some other time. We're talking AC/DC. We got Scott here, and Scott, give us the name in AZDZ. Give us the name of the members of the band, since they're a little more local to me. Give us the members of the band.
Well, we've got as our Malcolm, we have Linda Smith. She does a dynamite job. You know her.
Yeah, I know Linda.
Then we have Brian Polite on bass, and Mark Scroy on drums, and who am I leaving out? Oh, the singers.
Yeah.
We have Rotten Rod on, he does our Bon Scott, and then we have Keith Rankin who does our Brian Johnson.
Oh, that's awesome that you have. I didn't realize you had one for both. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, because makes a difference.
We started out with one, Johnny B. Kramer was our singer, and then he passed away
right
a few years ago, and then we couldn't find anyone to replace him, so we had to hire two guys. That's two guys to replace one.
Yeah, that's actually, if the other guy could do both, holy crap for him, because that's two different distinctive vocals. That's not the same singer,
Yeah, and Johnny B was like a hybrid in between both singers.
Awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a band that came out in the 90s that I listened to just because they sounded like AC/DC, and that was Jackal. Remember Jackal?
Oh, yeah.
I thought Jackal was AC/DC Junior.
Little AC/DC.
Yeah, man. Jackal loves their AC/DC.
They do.
Sure.
I mean, they're like the Southern AC/DC, man.
Oh, yeah. They love it.
They do, and it's like cool though, because I told you, I love when bands show their influence. I do, I love it, and you should like AC/DC is. I've heard them do The Rocker. It's one of my favorite songs that they do, and that's that's like a throwback to the '50s music that they liked, And that's what I said. That's so fucking cool. Do that, and Big Balls. Come on, that's the coolest fucking song ever.
Do you guys do that? Do you guys do that? I don't recall.
Yeah, we do. We don't do it at every show. It depends on the situation, how many songs we're going to play. And they have so many hits, we like to change it up when we can.
Right.
Right.
Do you have a favorite song that you like to play? Not that your favorite song to listen to, but an AC/DC song that you love to play.
Let There Be Rock's one of my favorites to play. I have a good handful that are my faves, and they're for various reasons. I love, like something by Brian. I'm thinking, man, there's so many good ones. Thunderstruck's a really fun one to play.
Yeah, Thunderstruck seems like a, but Let There Be Rock is probably one of the coolest fucking rock songs ever made.
Yeah, Let There Be Rock.
Yeah, that's got the energy.
That is like get you pumped, man. I want to if I'm a boxer, I want to fucking listen to that song before I kick some ass.
Yeah.
It is, man. It's just like a good punch the shit out of somebody song. It is.
It really is. And is there an abstract song that you really like that you guys don't get a chance to play? Is there a song that you'd like to play that you've never played before?
God. Yeah, I would love to play Razor's Edge.
Oh, really?
That's a song that we've never played before, and it's like that is totally an off the path type of song.
Definitely.
But I love the feel of that. It's got it all.
Yeah, do you think?
Maybe I think I might have turned on the light, man.
Yeah, I love the fact that the Youngs are so in control of that band. You know, Malcolm's out, but then they bring in the freaking nephew who looks just like them. It's like it's scary.
Yeah, I know.
They look the same age too.
Yeah, I think he's doing them some good. You know, he's putting in some of his influence, and I think it's helping him a lot.
Sure,
you know, he's getting them through some tough times.
It's you know, they had many success, and just recently all this bullshit, man.
I know.
It's all hitting the fan all in the last 2 years, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Malcolm was one of the main songwriters of that band, so It's really hard to lose your guy, you know, who pretty much, he's like 75% of what they do, you know, and so now Angus's nephew has to like use those genes and incorporate it into the new AC/DC, you know.
Yep. But maybe it's a good thing they got a new singer and everything because it's a new AC/DC, like you said, you know. So
well, you know, yeah. Here's my take on it. They lost, you know, when Bon Scott died. You know, it was just a tragedy. It was, you know, I couldn't believe it. I didn't believe it for almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like the very next day, Back in Black came out, and
it wasn't too far after. That's true.
Yeah, you know, and I was like, oh no, you know, and so I went out and bought it the week it came out, and I put it on and I listened to the whole album in about 5 minutes. You know, I just listened to the intros, then I went to the middle section of the song and then the end, and I'm like, okay. And then I didn't listen to it for like 3 months.
Oh, wow.
I was like, man, it's just not the same, you know. Oh no, you know, what happened? And then every once in a while I would put it on, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I get it now. This is fucking kick ass. You know, and so, you know, now they're in that same situation. You know, Brian's still alive, thank God. But now they're in that transition, and I could see if Axl becomes their singer, their next album could be the new Back in Black for them.
And I agree with you. It's not going to sell 25 million copies like that one did, but it'll be enough to make them household names again. And I agree.
To go on tour.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, we are out of time, man. We took it down to the last freaking minute. Tell everybody where you guys are going to be playing next. Do you know yet, or do you have anything going here locally, or AZDZ?
Right now, locally, no. We're there's nothing in the books right now. We're kind of taking a short hiatus before we get on to something, but hopefully soon.
Okay.
You know.
All right. Well, I'm sure everybody out there listening wants to know, and keep in touch with us. You can catch them on Facebook. And please, if you haven't seen AZDZ yet live, these guys rock it. I mean, they really bring it, and they put on a hell of a show, and it's fun to watch, and it's a whole lot of fun. So you want to tune in for that. I want to thank our guest, Scott. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been fascinating. Great conversation. And folks, tell all your friends about this conversation because it was really fucking cool. And also want to thank Guido for coming on and staying on and keeping the show moving the way he always does. Good job, fella. All right, man. Okay. We're gonna take off. Thanks for listening. This has been the Conjugal Visit. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah.
It's Sunday night, and this is the Conjugal Visit on KGFRocks.com.